So, hello and welcome to anyone that might be watching or listening to the Growth Strategy podcast and live stream. What I tried to do and what I tried to do since kind of launching this was get on some real people that have got really good stories to tell, things that I think you'll find interesting, and generally good, honest business people that have great, inspiring backstories and actually just sharing their kind of journey, which I think people will get genuine value from. So today's guest, Mark, is no different. I'll introduce him. We'll have a chat for kind of 30, 40 minutes, go into his story and everything to date. If you've got any questions, please kind of send them in and hopefully we'll catch up soon. So Mark, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Afternoon, everyone. How are we doing?
Good. So what have you been up to? How's lockdown been?
It's been different, challenging, exciting. Lots going on in the business. Obviously, lots of change going on as well, and both in our business and speaking to other clients, I think there's been some real challenges. I think, but also some real opportunities. And from a business perspective, we've learned a lot about ourselves, and in general, it's been all good, and we feel we're more stronger and agile coming out of it, or touch wood, hopefully start to come out with things. So
Yeah, it is a strange one, isn't it? Just when I think actually me and my wife spoke about this morning. Did you ever watch the show SES Who Dares Wins?
yes, yeah,
One of the classic things that they do, and if you read, I've got all Ant Middleton's books kind of over here, is that they do a test where they put people through hell. And then just to the point where they can see the Land Rover in the distance where they think they get to escape and go off again, it drives off. And what they're trying to do is test people's resolve and see who, because a lot of people break and VW and quit at that point. But actually, I think almost that's what we had in the last 3 days with Boris, because everyone seemed to be getting back to normal. And obviously I had Emily Bentley on and talking about Bentley's coffee shops and stuff.
yeah,
And then actually to then get locked down again, it's the same equivalent. So if anything, I think it will actually hit people harder this time because everyone kind of felt it was getting back to normal. And it kind of, I guess it's hit us all again. But no, it's great to kind of catch up. So just to kind of give some people some context, I've probably known Mark for about 10 or so years. His company and what he does and some of the colleagues and clients and stuff that they work with and some of the campaigns which we'll touch on are, in my opinion, probably some of the best in the Northeast that I've definitely seen. And again, today we're going to talk about Mark's own journey and kind of what he's been through, but then likewise discussing some key topics about design and what makes good design and, some just different things about careers and stuff. So Mark, would you like to tell people a little bit about yourself?
I'm Mark Easby. I'm managing director of Better. Better's a branding agency based in Teesside. We've now got an office in London as well, working with clients all the way across the UK. And actually, in lockdown, we won our first international client. So, taking the sort of national blinkers off, I think, and looking at opportunities now overseas, which is fantastic. I'm also chairman of High Tide Foundation, which is something that's really close to our heart, which is all about providing career opportunities to the young people across Tees Valley.
Because am I correct in thinking you're born and bred Middlesbrough?
Yes, well, born and bred in Thornaby, yeah. Went to school in Thornaby and I've grown up around the area, and although I've left and come back a couple of times, the vast majority of my time has been in Teesside, and now the office headquarters is in Middlesbrough.
Because I must say the way that Matthew Ward describes it is that Middlesbrough's like having an ugly sister, is where you can say it, but if anyone else says anything bad, it's terrible. And but like what I found quite funny is that there is a real kind of camaraderie within the region. There's a real kind of business community, which actually you might get everywhere else, but actually, I don't know if Teesside, almost because it's almost always had to fight its own corner, it seems to really have that. I don't know how you've, find that or experienced that.
I think, well, there's an incredible sense of pride locally, I think. I think the trouble is we don't often shout about that and shout about the stories and some of the successes that we've had in the past and are having, and the region's got such a bright future. I think it's about time that we shouted loudly and told our story, really.
Cool. So at the moment, obviously, you're founder and MD of a branding agency, which we'll talk on. But how did you get started? What were you like at school?
I was always the one that couldn't get out onto the field quick enough to have a game of football. To be honest, I quite enjoyed school, I suppose. Going through sort of primary and secondary, I got Got to 50th year and decided to stay at the state college.
You're
but,
not 15. I was going to say
no,
you're
I
not
got to
50.
Yeah, sorry, not quite got to 50 yet. I got to 50 year and started to and decided to stay on at college. Although my first year at college didn't go too well and got moved on from the college I was at. But then picked some subjects that really were nothing to do with careers and what I wanted to be, because I just didn't have any idea. I just picked some stuff that I quite enjoyed and thought I'd probably be more successful if I was just trying to do something that I had an interest in and enjoyed. So I did that, and then went on to Teesside University to do a media technology course, which at the time the internet was being born, and the media world was changing quite dramatically. So it was very much an induction into media as a sector, if you like, and all the different disciplines and platforms and things that existed at the time.
Almost because actually I've had a bit, like almost when you have a bit of time to think about it. So I did engineering. But I remember back in the day, and this is in no way meant as a slight, but people used to joke that media studies was a bit of a DOS course. It was a bit easier.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, now arguably it's the most important thing you can learn. You know, it's so important in everyone's like life that I think it's almost, it came true that, okay, David Beckham studies was another thing that came out in the early 2000s that everyone used to joke about. But actually, it's one of those courses that is rarely kind of flourished because, again, the internet and media, and now everyone with their smartphones to this is media. And it's incredible how the world has changed to actually, to follow that path.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think I had the foresight to see what was coming, but I didn't. It was one of those courses that I just thought, well, it looks like I'm going to quite enjoy it. I'm quite interested in TV, radio, and quite sparked interest in this new internet thing that was happening at the time. And it was also free at the time as well. Obviously, the landscape of universities totally changed as well, so it was limited risk in regard to continuing my education. Teesside was growing a big reputation back then in regard to sort of media and digital. Although in its sort of infancy. And I was working part-time and I was living at home and stuff. So yeah, life seemed pretty good, and it was a fairly easy option to take, really.
So then
looking it would be different now with the different considerations you need to make, and obviously the different opportunities and costs that are involved in making decisions like that.
No, that's true. But I'll be honest, when I decided to do engineering, I think it was just because I like cars. I never really thought about careers or anything. But at a certain point, I think generally in people's like second year, it depends if it's a 2 or 3 year kind of degree, you start to think, actually, what jobs are out there? Who could? So how did you get your first job? How did you make that leap after uni?
Yeah, well, the course included sort of an induction into TV and radio and multimedia as such. So I started really getting quite a deep understanding of IT, and specifically around web technology, and the internet was being born. And I'm really interested in when we used to sit in Notepad designing our first sort of websites, if you like. I really enjoyed that. So a multimedia placement came up with a local startup, and I took that and grabbed that with both hands, and then started working my way through understanding actually not just designing and building websites, but understanding what this tool could do in regard to business growth and marketing and brand communication, etc., etc. So I suppose as my experience developed and as my knowledge developed, I really started to think about what type of career I wanted to be in, and I'd had my first sort of stepping stone into that and started to become really excited and really passionate about it. So I worked that business for 8 or 9 years and changed my role slightly from actually being on the tools, working on websites and building and designing websites and creative work, through to working with clients to understand their requirements, understand their business, and try and decide what tools they might need and how we could help them to build those tools. And as I sort of started to go client side, I started building my own business network, and it sort of exposed me, I suppose, to business itself and the business community on Teesside, which I'd never really been exposed to. I hadn't really understood what being in business meant and the type of industry that sat around me in the Tees Valley region, really.
Because I must have I guess on a few fronts. One, I think any boss that has done his time on the tools, learnt his craft the proper way, it means that then at some point when you start to ask other people to do stuff for you, you know how to do it, you know it inside out. So actually, both it gives you credibility to manage even better, but I think there's a level of respect there that likewise, almost when you have failures with stuff, that's arguably where you learn your biggest lessons. So I think, I think actually when I was talking to Matt McGough from Ithaca Films, we were talking about how actually failure can be really important, because actually, especially when you're more junior in your career, and especially if it's nothing critical, shall we say, that, you can recover from, that's how you learn and develop. So I really kind of respect that one. And then on the kind of business networking point of view, I'm just dropping all my Middlesbrough Teesside names there. But again, it was something Emily Bentley mentioned, that actually when she realised the power of networking, that actually in her story, when she was working at the accountancy firm and they used to take her to networking events to kind of do what she does best, it almost opens your eyes to who else is out there, who does what. And I think it's almost, it's unless you're in it, it's quite difficult to discover it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's the same with sort of industry, if you like, on Teesside. My dad worked at ICI for 45 years, and we used to go and pick him up after swimming on his 2 to 10 shift and get let through the gatehouse at Wilton and drive for what seemed like miles past steaming tube pipes and flare stacks and high-vis jackets, and just this world of industry that was incredible to see, if you like. And then there's not a lot of people, I suppose, that get exposed, certainly at school and when you're growing up, that get exposed to actually understanding the level and the scale and the significance of industry on Teesside. Luckily, with people like ICI and I suppose when we started working with PD Port, it was a similar type of recognition going on to Teesport and seeing the industry and the commerce and the job roles and the world that sits around the river. It was just a total eye-opener to me. And until we started doing that, I hadn't understood that was even there, never mind the world that existed there. So you can walk to the Riverside Stadium every Saturday to go and watch the Borough and walk over the river, but not understand actually the incredible opportunities and like I say, the world of industry that sits around it.
Oh, cool. So we'll go back to the education piece a bit later on, because there's a few things I kind of want to explore with you. But almost, so at what point did you start to get the itch for your own kind of business?
I think it was while I was doing the job that I was doing, and like I said, I'd grown my business network a little bit, and so I suppose more importantly, grown my confidence in my skills and my capabilities, and the motivation started growing that I wanted to do something on my own and control my own destiny, I think. And I had ambitions to do things better and improve myself, improve the business, build a business with strong values, delivering brilliant value to clients, and hence made the decision to do that, and where the name of the business better came from. So yeah, it was a challenging time in regard to my personal confidence and if we could do it. And I remember sat in my lounge with the two founders. We set the business up, absolutely shitting ourselves, thinking what are we doing and what do we do now? And it was a case of putting 3 computers on our credit card and just cracking on. That business network, I suppose, that community around Teesside actually came into its fore, because we had quite a lot of sort of personal reputational equity, I guess. Mm-hmm. People liked us and liked what we were doing and had the trust and the confidence to give us some work, and we just started growing from there, just doing some great work with some great people, and it started expanding and growing from there.
Can I ask you about the first kind of 6 months? Because I think it's one of those things that often so when I went into, again, full-time self-employment properly, like I know a lot of people and I know exactly what I'm doing, but even then I already had my first customer, and then actually someone described this to me: you'll probably get your first customer quite quick, your second customer after like 2 weeks, but then you'll probably have a lull for a while and then it picks up properly. Did you find that as well?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I'd taken the role really of being sort of the networker salesman, if you like. I wasn't delivering that much in the business by then, so we managed to grow a team of people, of designers and developers that could actually do the stuff, if you like. But we had someone that was designated to actually and dedicated to being out and about, sort of growing the reputation, building the network, growing the profile of the business. And we were really lucky, I suppose. Well, I suppose we'd earned the luck, but we were quite lucky that the phone kept ringing and people kept knocking on our door. But there was significant lessons learned in that first 6 months in regard to cash and cash management and all the business and the commercial stuff that you need to know to make the business sustainable. Obviously, doing the exciting stuff, doing the work was brilliant, and we loved that. But someone had to be the one that sort of watched the business and managed the cash and did all that commercial stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to stick around. So, so there was lots of learning going on in the first 6 months.
I was on a podcast I was listening to in the gym this morning, and actually I'm just going to throw this out there because it happened. So I was in the gym. I was from like 7 till maybe 8 o'clock. 7:30, someone's put Slade on, so they put a Christmas song on in the gym in September. I couldn't believe it. Anyway. But I was listening to, I listen to podcasts and stuff when I'm running. It just helps me kind of switch off. And a guy was saying about how for any successful business, you need to be able to actually deliver what you say you're going to deliver, be able to market it and sell it, to go out and sell the dream. And then it's exactly what you just said. It's the cash management, the financial management. If you get all three right, you're in a good place. But actually, if one of them lets you down, that's when you'll start to struggle. So it's interesting that you kind of found that. So would you like to tell people a bit more about the business itself, what it is, what you do, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so as a brand agency, we help clients with their brand proposition, their brand strategy, telling their brand stories, and culminating, I suppose, in what most people perceive as brand is sort of the visual veneer that might sit around a business, its corporate identity and its visual style, etc. So we defined a brand builder process which works with clients, I suppose, through a research and insight stage to help them discover themselves or challenge and validate who they are, what they do, what makes them special, talk to some of their clients and stakeholders around the business to help validate and understand what they think about the business too. We then go into a create stage, which is all about defining a story, and that story includes things like tone of voice and brand archetype, the character of the business and the values and the defining mission and vision and elements like that to really build the verbal framework, I suppose, for the brand. And then that translates into visual, which becomes the corporate identity and the visual style, and obviously colour palettes, typography, brand style, illustrations, photography, etc., etc. And then after that, it's all about rollout, which is design and development, website, digital, brochure design, etc. Some of which we do, some of which we partner with people to do, such as things like filmmaking and PR and events.
Because I was going to say, do you think a lot of, I'm going to talk about just traditional Northeast business owners. So again, the lady I spoke to earlier today estimated probably 15,000 businesses in the Northeast, a lot of whom a bit rough and ready. Do you think people really give credence to how important a brand is to a business?
I think it's becoming more important, and I think there's an understanding more of brand as a business tool rather than something that just sits in the marketing department, if you like. It's something that now touches on internal communication, it touches on values and HR and culture and inductions, as well as and recruitment, as well as sales and marketing and sort of that external veneer. So certainly the work that we're doing with clients, we spend quite a lot of time educating what the power of investing in brand could be, but also that it isn't just about logos and stationery and websites, etc., etc. It's much deeper than that. So we have to work with some clients where it really just is about building the internal story to help them recruit and attract the best people. And they've seen that as a branding project, not just about client acquisition and sales and marketing as well. So I think people are growing to the fact and understanding what brand can mean to the business. And I think things like Simon Sinek and focusing on why and understanding all that type of stuff starts to glue the conversation together, that actually your sales and marketing is absolutely intrinsically linked to that business why and the character of the business and your cause and what you're trying to achieve. And it all should wed together under this umbrella called brand, if you like. It's not just a toolkit that the marketing department has.
Because I think some people lose sight of it. It's every touch point that a business has, from your reception to the front desk, to when someone picks up the phone, to when you're at a networking event, to social media, whatever. And again, I think sometimes it's also the consistency. So just having a sexy logo is great, but it's how you live it out and how you embody your values. And I think it's so important to kind of keep it out there. And actually sometimes I think it often helps that when you're so like out of interest for your own business, how often do you review your own yourself?
We rebranded ourselves, one of the most challenging clients that we've ever had, to be honest, about 18 months ago, to line up with our 10-year anniversary. And it was really about our changing our story and evolving our brand to fit the business that we were, and what we were hoping to become. So re-establishing the values, but also part of it, I think, was co-creating it with the team that we've got now. So everyone felt like they had a piece of the brand, and the brand was about us, not just the founders or the people that sat in the boardroom, if you like. It was something that could empower everyone. And that was reflecting the type of clients that we wanted to work with, and the growth that we wanted in the business, equally looking at the people that we wanted to attract to the business, and what it meant for Better to be in the community, and the values that we had, and the projects that we got involved in, and it was a whole melting pot of all kinds of stuff that was a great discussion for us to have before we then finalised actually the story and the refreshed identity and the new website, etc.
Because one of the things that I do really like, and I know we've spoken about before, but I think it's, I'd like to share with people that might discover you kind of for the first time, is it's the story behind the name. So obviously you are Better, but do you want to kind of talk people through why you picked that?
Yeah, I alluded to it before. I think it was about that meaning of constant improvement, driving forward. I think certainly in the agency game, it's all about awards and being the best at this and the best at that, and it seems quite final to us, that type of language, when actually Better suggests that there is an element of constant improvement, and I think certainly brand communication is changing every day. So to stop learning and stop developing is almost too arrogant. So I think it was super important that sat as core to our values, etc. But also it really starts to instill the culture and the service levels and the value that we want to add to clients. It's a word that sort of encompasses all of that. And more recently, I suppose it talks about the region that we want to be part of and the cluster that we want to get involved in. And we've got the Boho Zone and the digital media cluster as well. So Better becomes something that sits sort of right at the heart of the business with a number of connotations depending on what we're getting involved in.
No, I like that, because there's a humility to it, because it's one of the big things that we're the best in the world at this. It's like, well, are you? Everyone's got their niche, but it just almost saying, look, we're good, but we always want to be better. And one of the things that I try every day when I finish working and turn off my laptop, I always try and think, look, have I done a good job for my clients? Are they happy? That's the one thing that goes through my head every single day. Yeah. But I resonate with that. And then actually what also links in with what you've also just said is almost with the community element. Like obviously we've got Ben Houcham as the mayor, but actually I think as a region, we just want to do better as well. So actually I never, we've spoke previously, but I'd never made that link with your business to the community, but actually it's inherently there through how we started this conversation by talking about it. So actually, no, it's very clever. And I always appreciate kind of brands with good depth and thought. And, it's as opposed to just pick a name, sod it, let's run with it. And it's nice when there's more quality there.
So don't get me wrong, it helped that the domain names were available and the social handles were all out at the time. So that's a consideration nowadays, isn't it, when you're naming your businesses?
Well, I must admit, so basically with me is growth strategy roadmap. It's all about growth strategy, and I tell people and give them a plan to do it. So it made sense. But actually, when I tell people the email address, it's quite long. So I've done so many searches for gsr.com. I'm trying to shorten it, and I will get there. But it's just, but realistically for me, people hire me that is it. But anyway, it's regardless. But I appreciate it's the honesty to talk about URLs and whatever, because that's the world we live in. And then likewise, truth be told, if you can't get the .com, I don't know if you have the .com, but it helps. So it does, to kind of when you're picking your company name, what you decide to kind of go for.
We've just changed to better.agency, actually. That's our main domain name.
It's because you're posh and you're a cool design agency.
So it's really cool, but giving your email address out, mark@better.agency, people often ask if .com should be on the end of it. So all these new, fairly new extensions around domain names, we jumped on it straight away. We could when we knew it was available, but obviously hitting the wider community, if you like, and people that maybe aren't involved in web development and domain extensions and stuff, just making sure that this is something that we have to be aware of.
So earlier on, you mentioned about you'd expanded to London. Do you kind of want to talk people through that? Because again, I think there's always an element with every business about how do you stick with what you've got? Do you gamble? Do you go for more? How do you do it? And then, I don't want to lead the question, but almost like, how did you go through the process to decide to grow, where you were going to grow, and how that kind of rolled out?
Okay, so it was really a confidence and a realization, I think, that probably 3 or 4 years ago, that the work that we were doing and the brand builder projects that we were delivering for the likes of Visualsoft and PD Ports and Active Financial, these were significant regional, if not national, if not international businesses. They happened to have a TS postcode, so did we, but that's not why they were using us, because we were around the corner. So when we looked at what we were delivering and the level of work that we were, level of brand projects that we were delivering, we decided actually that there's no reason why we can't be doing that for companies outside the region. So we did something that companies hardly ever do, and we'd hardly ever done, was speak to some of our really trusted clients and networks and people that really love what we do, and asked them to introduce us to a few people, and focused initially on London and the southeast. And we got open arms in regard, oh yeah, go and speak to so-and-so for a pint, or I'll introduce you to what's his face for a coffee. And I literally put some days in the diary and booked some train tickets and went down and filled my diary full of meetings. And I remember getting off at King's Cross thinking, oh my God, what are we doing down here? And everyone was walking so fast, and there was local agencies that do what we do. And I just thought, I'm going to get on the train tonight and just come home, and that'll be it. But the conversations were fantastic. People liked our hunger, liked our passion, liked the service and the creds that we had and our experience. And it quite quickly turned into some tender opportunities, which quite quickly turned into some projects. So immediately our regional blinkers were off, and we were thinking, actually, we can stack up as a national agency here. And to be honest, the way we service some of those clients, we think nothing of getting on a train and being down in their office waiting for them before they even got in the door, where there seemed to be this sort of reluctance from some of the competitive agencies we were pitching at, even if they were based in London, to make that journey or show that hunger or go that extra mile.
But it shows that you care.
Absolutely.
Because realistically, you could sell anything. And if someone actually keeps following up in a nice, considerate way that they want to do a good job, you're going to pick them. But what I think is great on 2 points of view, hopefully companies like yours that are brave enough to actually make that big step, because there must be, to go to London it's a big deal. But then likewise to make a success of it. And, again, doing it through referrals, which I think is a great way to actually kind of, grow your business by actually people that have bought your service, who know you've used you before, to get a referral from them to people who could use you is arguably like one of the best things you can ever do to grow a business. That's a great tip for anyone.
It seemed incredibly brave and bold at the time. Looking back, it was a simple and organic step that we were going to take, and I think the fear was mostly in our minds, and I think looking back now, we should have had more confidence sooner in ourselves based on the client base that we had and the work that we were delivering, and equally sort of drop into that pot the value proposition that we can have been delivering the work back up in the northeast against potentially some of the competitive agencies that we've got down there. Our brand builder process really stacked up, and we were very keen not to be the cheap northern guys, and we don't price like that, but equally, I think our overheads and the way we run our business can certainly compete head and shoulders with against a London agency on value.
Who would be the dream customer?
It's difficult to say, actually. It's really difficult to say. I mean, we nailed one of our dream jobs recently, actually, in the Teesworks project for the Combined Authority, renaming and rebranding the former SSI site, and it is the biggest local project about, if you like. Certainly the regeneration project, the size and scale and the international significance of the project is one thing, but also the local impact and the local story and the heritage to do with the site is incredibly important. some of our team go through the site on the train, coming to work every morning. Some of our team have got relatives that worked at the old SSI works, and there's emotion, and there's all kinds of meaning to delivering that project, away from it being just a commercial job that we won. So it must be up there in regard to one of our dream jobs, to be honest.
Because when you, I imagine, pitched for that job, did you get the chance to pitch in person?
It was pitched digitally over Zoom.
Okay. But my point is that I can see how your genuine passion for the project would come through, and I know how important that is to Ben and the team. So actually, I can see that would come across. Because again, I remember in previous jobs where I was public sector at the time, we did a tender. We almost instantly knew who we wanted to go with because they just got it, and you can't fake that. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, from day one, it was more than just a project for us, and it was something that we wanted to win and wanted to deliver. And being on site when it was all launched, it was goosebump moments for us. It wasn't just like, say, getting a check at the end of the day. It was much deeper than that.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the big things that we've touched on all the way through is to do with brand and design and that kind of thing. What makes good design for you?
I think bottom line, it's got to be effectiveness. Design is always subjective. Someone doesn't like that colour or doesn't like that campaign or whatever that means. But actually, for the brand itself, relevance and effectiveness has got to be the key. And for us, good design links back to good strategy and actually doing some thinking about what that design is intended to do and who it's intended to be aimed for and what you're trying to achieve with it. And I think when people get that right, then the design brief and good design sort of flows from there. So we talked about Active a little bit before, a financial company, and we've recently, last year, finished a rebrand for a kombucha brand, Equinox. And they were very clear when they went into that project that this wasn't just a tidying up their visual veneer and getting a new logo done. It was actually part of their growth plans. They wanted higher listings in Waitrose, they wanted new listings in other supermarkets, they wanted to seek investment. So the brand project was going to be a fundamental part of that. So as we work with them to create this story about balance and energy and define actually their bottle shape and label and the story that sat around that. Coming out of that and after the launch of that, they now sought investment from Yeo Valley and have now doubled the listing in Waitrose and they're now in Holland Barrett and places like that. So when it comes, not everyone's going to like that label, but for them and their target audience, sales have increased, listings have increased. So effectiveness for them is the measurement of good design. So that's something that's core to what we do, really.
No, spot on. Because it's Seth Godin that talks about trying to find your minimum viable audience. And again, if you try and sell your business to everyone, you'll end up selling it to nobody. It's almost trying to find your niche. So again, I don't know too much about their product, but I'm going to just guess. I'm just going to spitball a bit. If you aim for like middle class families who have 2 kids, one of them might be vegan, they live in this area, they shop at Waitrose, but that is very difficult to someone you might sell Alco Pops to who's under 21 on a lower demographic group. But actually, you're right, it's all about your own business goals and aims and what you're trying to achieve with the brand. And actually, I think in a lot of ways, it's brave of a business owner, especially at the moment, to say, actually, we're going to allocate that chunk of cash on this project, which probably doesn't have an immediate ROI, but actually they know it's the right thing to do. So I think it's no spawn. So what are some of your favorite projects you've ever worked on? Do any stand out?
Certainly the Equinox one I mentioned there. That from a size and scale perspective, and as a London client, they're Europe's largest selling kombucha, which was a fantastic coup to sort of win that project. Obviously, I mentioned the Teeswork project as an incredibly local and very emotive project for us. Recently delivered the Active Financial project, which for Carl and the team there, we know personally as well, the friends of ours as well as obviously business clients and networks. It was the next step in the journey with Active, because we worked on brand with them probably about 4 years ago, and it was a focus on professionalising their visual veneer, if you like, and it was a project that was very appropriate at the time for them to support the next stage of growth. Fast forward to sort of the next stage, which was launched about 18 months ago now. The business had changed fundamentally. They'd invested in their headquarters. They wanted to look at redoing their headquarters. So it sort of, the interior design and the flow of the building and the environment that we're creating there was very much brand-led. And obviously they had client acquisition targets and client retention targets. So the strategy of the business and the growth plans of the business had changed fundamentally. So them identifying that brand played a key part in that was really heartwarming to us, because we worked with them on helping to understand how that could play a part. But the work that came out of that and this active spirit that we developed that plays a key part in their marketing, that it's all about energy and transparency and dynamism, which represents the values and the way their firm works, all the way back to the sort of the personal values of the directors and the team within the business from a culture and a recruitment perspective. So that's one where we've seen brand play a first-hand role in business growth, if you like, and really supported their growth plans, and to see it come alive in a physical environment, working with the guys at Cocoon & Bower to help visualize the brand and apply the brand in a visual environment. So they've taken walls down and put glass panels in to support the transparency of the brand, if you like, and this active spirit lives on throughout the building. So they've really gone both feet into what brand can mean and it impacting on, like I say, not just sales and marketing, but the environment of the living.
It's actually quite. I almost feel a bit jealous that I don't have the money to kind of, but it's just I get it. I like it. I love it. I just it's nice to hear someone go to that depth.
I think some of the metrics come out of that in regard to sort of the acquisition they're now seeing, and they're a really clear client acquisition plan, if you like, the value of each client and where they're going to get those clients from. So to see the brand playing a key role in that, but also client retention and them attracting some of the best people around regionally to come and want to work for them, because those values are really clear from the outside, and there's that transparency and energy around the firm is brilliant to watch for us.
Because I remember when it launched, because again it was on Twitter, and one of the things that I love again about your website was almost the fact that, because I liked what I saw, but I can then go in and you tell a story of it and you show all the stuff together, and it's a nice to kind of come and see. And I guess from your own promotion, it's when anyone can nail one, but it's then when you do it again and again and again with Visual Soft and different companies, it's I guess that's how you build your brand, and you get better and you get better.
Absolutely.
So we've touched on community a few times. Would you like to tell people about High Tide?
Yes. High Tide is something that we got involved in through our relationship with PD Ports initially. It was a project that they were involved in setting up it was coming up 6 or 7 years ago now. And the drive was by PD Ports and Casper Shipping and a couple of other people on the river, was to try and get some school kids out of classrooms onto river trips, just taking them up and down the River Cheese, showing them the world of opportunity and potential careers that are available there, many of which had no idea that even existed, never mind the job roles that were there. So we built a website free of charge and did some other bits free of charge for them, just to help the project get up and running, really. And then as momentum built, it started to become a charitable foundation, and it started existing as an independent charity. So we got involved in that and have since helped deliver programs and work on marketing, and I got involved as a trustee, and I'm now chairman of the charity, helping to drive it forward, really. But the fundamental principles of it are around showcasing the career opportunities and the potential job opportunities that are here on Teesside, because there's so many hidden industries and there's so many kids sat in classrooms with absolutely no idea what's going on in Tees Valley, and still sometimes having the mentality of or not having the ambition that they want to work at all. And if the ones that do want to work often have the mentality of, if you want to get on, you've got to get out type thing. So we want to change that, and it's a long-term perception change project. But a big part of that is, like I say, getting them out of the classrooms and getting them in Active Financial and Visual Soft and Better and Ithaca and on the port of Teesside, and just showing them from finance to digital media to logistics and engineering, there's some incredible opportunities. And even in today's current climate, business continues and businesses are growing and there's opportunities are booming, really. So that's what it's all about, just showcasing opportunities to the Tees Valley's young people.
Because when you started, you talked about when you'd pick your dad up after swimming and you go on to Wilton, but it's the same story almost going around, where at the time you didn't necessarily know what was there. So it's nice to almost see it go full circle. And then I believe Tees Valley has, I think it's 16% of NEETs, so people who are not in education or training, which is twice the national average. So I really appreciate and stuff, that people really kind of tackle these kind of things just to show people what's out there.
Yeah, definitely. It is about opening eyes, I think, but also trying to instill confidence and motivation and resilience we talked about before. And it sort of feels like it's in our DNA in Teesside, but certainly we've got to show young people, I think, what resilience means. And that can include some of the work that we do around mock interviewing and that type of, getting them prepared for the world of work. Never mind knowing whether they want to be an engineer or not, just getting them to think about what work means and what the world of work can bring. So, it's super important that we try and get that aspiration raised and like I say, instill that confidence and motivation and resilience.
No, spot on. So there's two questions that I ask all my guests, and I think this is it's really important just to kind of share knowledge and experience and that kind of thing, because that's why I guess we all kind of do it. Would you be happy to share what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
Yes, it's a couple of them, I think. One is about looking after the cash. I know everyone says it, but fundamentally, it's the thing that keeps our business going. I remember quite early on in the business, we had a really successful entrepreneur that had offered to do some mentoring with us. And I asked him if he'd chair one of our board meetings, not really knowing what a board meeting meant or what I was supposed to do for one. But it was board meetings are things that businesses have, so I thought we better have one. So he chaired that, and I remember sitting down with him and sort of kicking the meeting off by saying, well, we're still here and everyone's being paid, so we must be doing okay. And he asked for our P&L and he asked for our balance sheet and our cash flow forecast, etc. And I didn't have any of it, and I didn't really know what any of that meant. So I remember at that particular point thinking, we've got to up our game here, and we've got to think about getting our heads around those business pillars, if you like, that are fundamental to make sure the business survives. And since then, I've sort of had him sat on my shoulder every month as I'm doing my management accounts and all that type of thing. And the next one is it was a guy, I think from Cafe Nero, an entrepreneurs forum event, and he talked about it's better to have a hole than an arsehole. And he really meant actually people in the business and your culture, and if you bring someone in that's not going to fit and they're not going to work and they don't fit with your culture, get them out quickly and deal with the gap, because the gap is better than having someone who could ultimately become corrosive to the values and the culture and the people in the business as well. So it's certainly something that we've sort of borne in mind as we've grown our business. And again, I think links back to that brand conversation as well. If your brand is visible as part of your recruitment and your induction process, it's more likely you're going to get people that are going to understand your culture and your values, and therefore be the right people to recruit into your business.
No, got you. I like it because it's from the book Good to Great, where they talk about getting people on or off the bus quickly. And again, with the different businesses that I work with, you see it. You see people at bad eggs, or you recruit someone, they don't quite live up to what you expected. Again, we all make mistakes. It's just learning to kind of move on and evolve and that kind of thing, get better. The other question, which I ask everyone, is that if you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick any age, any background, any whichever, what would it be?
Probably have more confidence in myself and take the opportunities as they're presented. So thinking about the work that we're doing with High Tide now, I maybe shied away from work experience opportunities, or didn't take that trip, or didn't go to that lecture where the guy from a big successful agency was coming in to talk about his journey and that type of thing. And maybe I should have grabbed those opportunities with both hands, because those are the type of things that are going to give us that real life experience that is so fundamentally important as you start your career. But equally, that confidence thing, be confidence in myself and my personality, my personal attributes, not just whether I've got a glowing CV or not. So I think as you go through education, you go through academia, and you maybe don't get the results, and that journey doesn't go maybe how it's planned, then you maybe don't come out with those qualifications or that CV that you maybe expect to. But looking back now, when we're recruiting people, it is about the person, it is about those attributes, and the CV or the portfolio is important, but it's more overshadowed by the people. So that confidence and those personal attributes are something that's fundamental for us when we're looking for people. So maybe I should have thought a little bit about myself when I was way back when, going out of school, college and university.
So when you were at school, college, university, did you ever see yourself as a business owner?
Not at all. Not at all. No one in my family had ever really owned a business, and there's no programs around like Dragon's Den, etc., that really put entrepreneurship on the table and made that a visible option, really. And it wasn't until, I suppose, I went to university and they started talking about sort of the startup scheme that was working at Teesside's incubation space on Victoria Road. And like I say, I got into my first job and started understanding the business community and some of the entrepreneurs and businesses that were starting and growing around here, that it sort of sparked my ideas, I suppose.
No, spot on, because it's that balance. So I was approached by Tees Valley Careers today and I had a chat with them. That's why I knew the statistic about the 16%. I'm not just this whiz on facts and figures. But anyway, but it's almost, yeah, I think it's having your eyes opened to just know what's out there. And, the answer, the truth is most people don't know, but over the course of your career, as you travel on, some people might just get an itch to try it. And it's almost just having the bravery just to go and do it. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine. But it's just, there are a lot of kind of mentors and support and people that have been through exactly the same thing as well. So that's cool. I give all of my guests, is there anything you would like to talk about or plug or anything like that?
I think the only thing I'd really like to plug, I suppose, is High Tide again, and we've got an ongoing rallying call to businesses across Tees Valley to help get involved in High Tide. And all our physical programs are on hold because obviously we can't get kids out into workplaces at the moment because of the current circumstances with schools and obviously workplaces as well. We're moving things online, and we're going to be creating an online academy where we're going to be running developing some digital programs. So we need things like Q&A sessions with different people in different roles of businesses. We need video tours, and we need all kinds of resources, digital resources, that we can help work with a business on, but we need ultimately businesses to help get involved and open the doors and open their arms to say, how can we help and what can we do? And like I say, that could just be a day in the life of feature. It could be a little virtual tour with their workplace just to show these young people what that might look like to work as a web designer or a piping engineer, whatever that might be. So we just need business to engage with us and come and knock on our door and see how we can work together to help build some of these digital programs that we're looking at now. And the sectors that we work across are creative and digital, engineering, logistics, manufacturing, finance, and all the key sectors that the combined authority are looking at focuses on. So no matter what your size or scale or type of business, then I'm sure you can help add value and help these young people with us.
No, spot on. So Mark, I really appreciate your time. I've always been a big fan of the company and the kind of stuff that you do. One day I'll be able to afford you. But I appreciate what you're doing. But likewise, all of the kind of High Tide stuff, there'll be a lot of people that will see you doing it, and they've seen you do it for many, many years. And it, that reflects on the brand and the company and you as a person and that kind of thing, that it's, it ticks a lot of boxes, but it's also great, I guess, to give back and help people coming through and stuff. I really appreciate your time today. It's good to kind of catch up. Hopefully we'll see you at a real life networking event in 6-7 months or a year or whenever we're allowed out again. And if not, I'm sure. Out of interest, are you part of the Tees Valley Business Club?
Yes, we are, yes.
Well, yeah. I might see you tonight then as my first ever one. Jane.
I've got parents' evenings tonight, so first virtual parents' evening, so we'll see how that goes.
Cool. But anyway, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you. Bye-bye.